Hey, what's up? It's Jim, and I just got back from the new film, The We and the I. This is the latest film from director Michel Gondry, a public transit bus on the last day of school in the Bronx, and all the kids and their adventures from school to home. Hearing the description, I kind of expected, and especially because of the beginning of the film, that this had a lot to do with realism. And in a certain respect, it does. And everything about the kids, Michel Gondry, who lives in New York, just like me, he went to the Bronx and he basically came up with these stories from real kids, and real kids are acting in this film. I thought the acting was pretty good for kids who hadn't really been in that much stuff before. They were actually kind of charismatic. As you're watching it and they get on this bus, like a regular bus, it seems very realistic, and it is, and you're catching the attitudes and what it's like to be a teenager and what it feels like to be a teenager, and teenage drama, and the bullies, and people having dumb friends, and siblings being in high school together, relationships and stupid shit and all that. And this film really nails that very well. But as they're on the bus, you're like, why is it getting dark? High school kids get out at like 2 or 3, and it's summer. And it's like the film is still on the bus, and in the amount of time it seems like that they're actually on the bus, I think they could have gone from the Bronx to Boston. When I get the bus is supposed to be almost like a metaphor or something for their whole teenage existence. I enjoy this film, you know, I enjoy the characters. I like what Michel Gondry's doing. This is a real break from his usual style. The only thing that's really I think reminded me of a traditional Michel Gondry kind of film was at the beginning of the film he has this kind of bus boombox thing that drives around the Bronx, and then the real bus crushes. When they talk about, you know, their fantasies, the fantasy sequences are very Michel Gondry. Having the bus like kind of this metaphor, that's fine. It's not that just the fact that it's a metaphor, it's the fact that you start off in like, this is real life, and the bus keep going. At first, while I was watching it, I was like, okay, I'm into this, and I thought it captured youth very well. And then as I'm watching it, it's like, why is it dark? Why does this keep going? Why does it seem like everyone's having kind of ridiculous drama? Kind of amplified the teenage existence. It started off in such a realistic place, but then having the bus keep going and going and going. Bus trips don't take that long, and if you're gonna introduce the realism of it, I think it might have worked a little better if it had been like bus rides over the course of a year, or it had been something where you're capturing the realism. But if it like kind of taken more of a metaphorical angle right off the bat, instead of slowly going into it and then suddenly you're like, wait, why am I on this bus so long? As a viewer, it kind of drudged on with them doing that. Like, it's 103-minute running time. I was really surprised it was 103 minutes because it felt like 135. There's a thing where this girl kissed this other girl when she was passed out drunk. That felt very real to me. But then like this family had to get off the bus because assume something tragic happened in their family. It just felt like he was adding on unnecessary kind of dramatic conclusions to things that it didn't really need. At the beginning, it reminds me of Do the Right Thing. But then as it goes on, it reminds me of like the lesser works of Spike Lee. A lot of what Michel Gondry did in this film is really smart, and a lot of what he captured about teenagers and teenage life is really insightful, and it shows he did listen to these kids in the Bronx. But I think he should have showed more of a storyteller in this film rather than someone who's capturing something. You could say maybe in this film, the strict storytelling sense of it isn't as important in what it's capturing. And if this film had worked a lot more, I would agree with you. But the storytelling aspect holds it back and makes it a little more arduous than really this film should be. This did remind me a bit of Be Kind, Rewind, in that it's really capturing an area, it's capturing a mood of a location. The way like Be Kind, Rewind kind of captured the mom and pop feel of video stores, this kind of captures youth in the Bronx on the last day of school, or it kind of did. Well, I guess it just captures youth in the Bronx. That reminds me of Spike Lee, because you look at Do the Right Thing, it's like, it's about Brooklyn in the summer, but it's about kind of a very small area, so it almost has a small town feel. And even like Crooklyn, you know, it's like a small little block. New York is very big, but if you look at just a small little block, that's kind of like a small town, you know? It's like a small little area with its distinct little voice. Michel Gondry is really good at capturing that, almost like an old 30s director or something. And I know he had help from these kids from the Bronx, but he's someone, as a director, who can let that flow and not hold that back, and really let that flow, and you really capture something. You really feel like you're almost like a part of the Bronx or something. You know, I'm barely been to the Bronx, and I felt like I kind of knew it from this film. Not that it's a great film, but it definitely captured something and captured a piece of youth. That's still an interesting thing to watch. It's just not an interesting thing to watch for 103 minutes. So if you have seen The We and the I and you would like to talk about it, then comment below in the comments and subscribe if you would like to.